Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I sat here with interest and listened for the last 45 minutes as I heard certain key tones and key words be thrown out to try and grab the public attention while creating some sense of murky water, if I may use that term. The truth is, Madam Speaker, Trinidad and Tobago is facing very difficult times when it comes to crime. Crime is one of the main issues affecting Trinidad and Tobago today and has been for the past few decades. And I want to put on the record here, Madam Speaker, at the outset, as I've said repeatedly in my last few contributions, all the 41 of us in this House, elected members, can do while sitting here carrying out our duties is pass legislation. That is all that we can do. And hopefully, on every single occasion, regardless of the side of the House that we sit on, we all have one aim, which is the aim of passing good legislation for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And if there's a single person elected in here who does not have that as his or her main purpose when they come here at every sitting of the House, representing our various constituencies, then I'd like to suggest something is wrong. To start by saying that the government has changed its policy, as though when you make a policy, it is a policy set in stone, and no government should change its policy, is hypocrisy at the highest level. Because we heard the Honourable Attorney General, the member for San Fernando West, tell us that not too long ago, when those on that side sat in the seats of government, they passed the same law, which one can argue was even more draconian at a time, and denied persons bail for sidearms. Denied persons bail without any previous conviction or previous charge for a mere sidearm. Madam Speaker, I would like to assure the population of Trinidad and Tobago and the citizens and the people that the heads of the various divisions of national security and myself are working tirelessly and continuously to fight crime and the criminal elements. And I use this opportunity at the outset to thank the men and women of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Defense Force, our Prison Service, the Fire Service, Immigration and our Intelligence Services for the yeoman's duty that they are doing by putting their lives at risk on a daily basis. And I make that point to let the population know the reason the government has come here between August and November with a change in policy in a very limited way, and I'll come to that. Because you listen to the leader of the opposition, who is a member of the inner bar and someone who should interpret the law and know the law and be able to profess on the law. Unfortunately misleading. And even some of what my friend from Oropuchi said here today misleads to an extent. But I will clear it up, and I'm sure he had no intention to mislead the House or the population as to what the effects of this bill are and how narrow the circumstances and the parameters of this bill are. So I started off by saying that the men and the women of the various heads and divisions, including, most importantly, the police service, are the ones who are putting their lives at risk. And the reason for the policy change between August and now is because the police service, the same police service that the member for Oropuch East is very, very cautious not to criticize. And he said, and he's placed it on the answer, that he supports the Commissioner of Police and the police service. It is the police service who've made this request. It is the police service who have asked and recommended we make this simple amendment, because it is a simple amendment. Crime changes, criminal activity changes, it morphs. What we faced 2 decades ago, we don't face now. 2 decades ago, the availability of automatic firearms was a non-existence. 2 decades ago, the police service and us, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, did not face the possibility of going out there and being confronted by persons with automatic firearms. Exactly. It simply did not exist. 2 decades ago, what we were facing on the streets, at best, was a semi-automatic handgun. The vast majority were all revolvers with a few rounds. Yeah. Every single week now, as much as they try to trivialize it, every single week now, Madam Speaker, we face the reality of AK-47s and AR-15s, and we cannot trivialize that.
And they know.
Because, Madam Speaker, one AR-15, one AK-47, and every time we find these perpetrators, they have more than one magazine, and every magazine is full to the tilt. I remind people a few weeks ago, when we were facing this in the other place, the live example on that day was we had picked up the night before 3 persons, 2 dressed in police uniform, with an AR-15 with 2 full magazines, so that's over 60 rounds of bullets, bigger than your finger, as well as a Glock handgun, which I've said repeatedly is a sophisticated handgun. That is what they had, dressed in police uniform with another person. And driving a vehicle with blue lights. That is what we're facing. That is the reality of what we're facing. It's nothing to do about passion and emotion. Passion and emotion are a good thing if you're doing it for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And that is what we're here today about, all 41 of us. Today, unfortunately, once again, we're faced with this. During the period of time, over the last 2 months, we have had, he calls it, the member for Oropouche East calls it the plumber case. Again, in his typical style and fashion, trivializing it. 9 AR-15s, whether a man sleeping in a car, awake in a car, on his feet, whatever. I put to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, through you, Madam Speaker, which person engaged in legitimate activity would have in their possession or have any lawful excuse whatsoever to have one AR-15, which is a machine gun. Yes, it is a tool of war, much less 9 of them. Regardless of how a police prosecutor relays his charge and drafts his charge in components and parts, because the criminal element is a sophisticated one. And they're not standing by with their AR-15s all assembled when they're transporting it. They're not stupid. They know how to break down these weapons of war and carry them in components to try and avoid the charge and being faced when caught with 9 AR-15s. Less than 2 weeks later, we then picked up in the 4 Roads jurisdiction 8 AR-15s. 9 plus 8, 17 AR-15s. A special forces team is normally in a composition of between 6 to 10. That could have outfitted 2 special forces teams. And this is the reality, Madam Speaker, of what we're facing. It's not hypothetical. We're not here in this House today changing policy because we wish to. It is because it is necessary. Absolutely. It is absolutely necessary that the 41 of us here today pass this legislation in its current form, without change. I want to tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago, through you, Madam Speaker, all this bill is doing is stopping persons in the first instance. They don't have a prior conviction, they don't have a prior charge, and I'll come to why we went that way, who have in their possession artillery. When I mentioned this to some young people, what this bill is about, they said artillery. Even the young people know artillery is a term of war. So this is to prevent any person from having in their possession artillery, automatic firearms, not sidearms, not a handgun, not even a shotgun, automatic firearms. And by the way, a Glock can be changed into an automatic firearm by just changing one component in it. And every time we pick up the criminal element with Glocks today, they have what we call an extended magazine that can hold 33 rounds. I guarantee you, Madam Speaker, anyone in this House today, including the men and women in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, any one of us today who faces a barrel of a firearm will not make any distinguishing argument as to whether it is a handgun, a sidearm, or a weapon of war, an AR-15, or worse yet, an AK-47. But they are out there. The reality is these are the weapons now being used by the criminal element. So all this bill is doing is saying anyone found in possession of artillery, automatic firearms, a grenade, a bomb, or other missile, no bail for you for 120 days. And I ask any single member of this House, including those absent, for example, the leader of the opposition who has senior counsel status, to stand and tell any right-thinking citizen in Trinidad and Tobago, any civic-minded citizen in Trinidad and Tobago, that it is okay for a person to have an automatic firearm and a grenade in their possession. And then on the first day and occasion they appear in court charged with that offense, they should be back out on the street the next day. So the person caught with the 8 AR-15s and the 9 AR-15s goes to court because to have that level of sophisticated weaponry at your disposal, you are going to be able to raise the money for bail. The person with the $500,000 bail got the bail and is out. And the next day he comes and he stands up next to you. Any one of us here in this House, or any citizen of Trinidad and Tobago who's a legitimate citizen, a law-abiding citizen, will they feel comfortable the next day, a person who the day before was found with an automatic firearm and a hand grenade is standing next to them in the same proverbial bus that they talk about? And the nice words, by Oropuch East at the end, talking about I didn't come here to create any fear. Quite the contrary. The typical strategy is the fear-mongering. The typical strategy is to try and reach the citizens out there and say, this is a draconian piece of legislation, Spend a lot of time about framing and setting people up, and the police and the commissioner of police is talking about police setting him up. That is applicable to any single criminal offense. Every single criminal offense. What stops a police officer from setting any one of us up with murder? And there's no 120 days to get bail in murder. Because once you're charged for murder, until the matter is determined, you have no bail. So that is a fallacy of an argument. It is a ridiculous argument to make. It just makes no sense. You cannot oppose criminal legislation or law to deal with criminality on the basis of saying the police could set you up. Because the police could set you up for anything. Including murder, as I just said, where there is no bail. So come with another example, come with another reason, but you can't fool the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So, Madam Speaker, the first point for people to understand is this is a very narrow restriction of your right to bail. If you have an automatic firearm, if you have artillery, a hand grenade, a bomb, or another device like that. Which sensible person in Trinidad and Tobago will accept that anybody should have any one of those items in your possession? And you know what? You know what was left out? You know what was left out? Section 7A, which we passed in this House not too long ago, in the same August time. Section 7A of the Bail Act. Section 5, subsection 7A, that says that a person to whom those subsections apply, which will include this, may in exceptional circumstances make an application to court for bail. So what we haven't been told, be it by the leader of the opposition with senior counsel status, be it by anyone else, including the member for Oropuch East here today, is you can still apply for bail. Even if you are found in possession of an automatic firearm and a hand grenade, you can still go to a judge in the High Court and make your application for bail. So again, the whole rug is pulled out from underneath that argument. You're not being denied the right to bail. This is not like what happened between 2011 and 2014, when they ousted the court's jurisdiction completely. They ousted the court's jurisdiction completely for a handgun, a sidearm. We are here today. First offense, no prior conviction, nothing, no bail. We are providing here that you can go to the High Court for bail. The reality of the situation, and they know in caucus, they know what we're going to come and say. Well, I want to remind the people of Trinidad and Tobago why it is so important for us to be here today, Madam Speaker, passing this legislation to protect every law-abiding citizen in Trinidad and Tobago from those persons out there who have access to automatic firearms and grenades and the like. And there can be no legitimate argument, no legitimate response for anybody, not even a police officer, not even a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, walks around with more than one automatic firearm. But we're picking up people with nine in their possession. And the ridiculous example of you go to the market, you're sitting down in a vehicle, and they pull over the vehicle, and the man run out into the bush and leave you there. Go to the judge in the High Court and tell him those are the circumstances. So are you not putting any faith whatsoever in the judiciary? Well, we on this side believe that in those circumstances, the High Court would do the right thing. And as the point that was made, it is not absolute a right to bail. It is still in the discretion of the court. But we need to make it harder for the criminal element to continue terrorizing us law-abiding citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago Police Service crime statistics, dated the 25th of November, that's Monday of this week. This is presented by the Commissioner of Police, and as the Minister of National Security, I get a copy. So if anybody else inside this house has it, I'll have some questions to ask.
You say you have it.
Yeah, you have everything, and I'll explain why in a short while. I want the people of Trinidad and Tobago to know, as at the 1st of January 2019 to today, the 27th of November, coming to the end of the year 2019, unfortunately, as at the time I came into this chamber, even though these statistics are at Monday, the murder toll, the homicide number from the 1st of January to the 25th was 480. Last night, another life was lost in very tragic, disturbing circumstances in the Port of Spain General Hospital. But no, the person who committed that heinous act, putting many lives at risk in a place where they've gone to recuperate, according to those on the other side, should be allowed back out on bail.
Yes.
They have no problem with that.
Do it again.
Go and do it again. Because we're protecting. Listen, this law, Madam Speaker, to put it in context, because there is an attempt to pretend to be the champions of justice for the poor and downtrodden. I want the population of Trinidad and Tobago to understand the fallacy of that argument, how misleading it is, and that it is a figment of some imagination. This law applies to persons caught with automatic firearms and grenades. Full stop. In possession of. And as I said, you could still go to the High Court and apply for bail. As of today, coming into this chamber, the murder toll for the year stands at 480. There are 4 divisions that have given us concern throughout the course of this year. The Port of Spain division, up. The Western division, up. The Northern division, up. And the Northeastern division, up. I do not think that that is a coincidence. I do not think that those are the divisions that are facing upsurges in the levels of criminality and crime with the use of firearms. And I have here with me today reports and documents from the police service and the intelligence services of Trinidad and Tobago that tell a very disturbing story. A very disturbing story about certain persons who are no longer in the chamber, who may not have come to the chamber, who sit in the other chamber, and these types of things. Very disturbing. So I point out now to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, look at these divisions. I then say, and this is provided by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, these are the statistics. This is the reality of what we're facing. This is not about old talk. This is not about emotion. These are pure data and pure facts. For the year, for the people of Trinidad and Tobago to understand that as of Monday of this week, the police service have taken off of the street for this year alone 735 illegal firearms. 700, and they will continue to take them off. Last year, by this time, it was 897. We believe we're finally seeing that trend of there's still an availability of illegal firearms, but not as much as before. For the year, we have taken 10,305 rounds off of the street. That's all that we've taken, 10,305. The same time last year, Madam Speaker, 15,556 rounds. Any sensible person will know when you're talking over 10,000 rounds, that is enough to go to a small war with. Marry that to the automatic firearms that we're talking about. And this is only what we've found and confiscated. This wouldn't include every single shooting now you have with the gangs. It's not one or two shots, you know. They spray and pray. And God forbid it is any of us inside of here, or anybody we know, any family member, any constituents, any law-abiding citizen. And it is their rights we've come here today to protect. Because nobody, Madam Speaker, in possession of an automatic firearm should be permitted the right to bail. What is this thing about? Is your first offense or a previous conviction? I'll come to why that doesn't apply. But you're going to give somebody who had 9 AR-15s the opportunity. So I'll catch you today with automatic firearms, but go back outside now. And let me see, be a good boy. Anybody in possession of an automatic firearm is not going to change overnight and become a good boy. Put them back on the street. Madam Speaker, I think the point is often lost, and I'd like to hear the response to this from any single person in the chamber, be it on this side or the other side. What is the reason to be carrying a firearm, an illegal firearm in the first place? A person who is carrying an illegal firearm is carrying it with the intent to kill somebody. It is not necessarily, if you have an illegal firearm, if even you make the argument it is to protect yourself, you are faced with a circumstance where you think you're going to protect yourself, you're going to kill the person you think is attacking you. Yes. So that is a fallacious argument. But even if, I give you the benefit of the doubt, carry a handgun illegally to protect yourself. You're going to walk around with a machine gun to protect yourself and a grenade. There is no one that can stand up with any sense of decency or any sense of sensibility and say that a person should carry an illegal automatic firearm. Not even a firearm user license holder could get the right to carry an automatic firearm. You cannot get the right from the Commissioner of Police to carry an automatic firearm. Not every police officer can carry an automatic firearm. And Madam Speaker, we go on. Murders by motive, right? So out of the 480 murders as of Monday, 86 were unknown, 148 definitely gang-related, 60 revenge, 53 drugs. I added the 53, the 60, and the 148 because to me, that is all gang-related and the criminal elements. 261 out of 480 by that sector, the same sector. And I'll tell you all why, through you, Madam Speaker. You can no longer say, in this day and age, the person should have a first offense or previous conviction. Because the statistics and the evidence are now showing that they're changing the persons carrying the firearms. They're ensuring that the persons carrying these automatic firearms from point A to point B for the criminal gangs, they're using younger people and they're using people who have no previous conviction for exactly this reason. And that is another reason why the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has asked us has asked, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has asked us for this particular amendment. This particular amendment, Madam Speaker, is for that phenomenon. That you can't say the person must have a previous conviction. And look at the live example. The person caught with 9 AR-15s didn't have a previous conviction. You think that is by choice? You think that is by coincidence? But that's the whole point. Why you would even have one automatic firearm, one machine gun? And the trivializing, oh, don't tell me about Uzi and don't tell me about machine gun, I know about submachine gun. But what we will be saying, or what certain persons are saying, because we're certainly not saying it on this side, is, you know what, it's fine, you know. You're not previously convicted or charged for carrying AR-15s. Go back outside. We're giving you a chance. Go and take a walk. Go and get another 8 and come back. We are rejecting that. And we are rejecting that based on evidence. Another frightening statistic. Total murders, woundings, and shootings for the year as of Monday. So not only murders now, but also woundings and shootings, Madam Speaker. From the 1st of January to the 25th of November this year, 1,121 murders, woundings, and shootings occurred. 79.4 or 381 of the murders alone were committed with firearms. So 80% of the murders committed in Trinidad for the year are through use of firearms, and about 99% through the use of illegal firearms. That is the reality of what we are facing. So if we are facing that 80% of the murders in this country are committed through the use of illegal firearms, how could we with any conscience, whether the jokes are made about staring in the mirror at yourself or not, how can we with any conscience, the one duty, the one job we all have, the 41 of us here in this house today, to pass legislation, could say that a person with a hand grenade, a bomb, artillery, or an automatic firearm should be allowed bail on the first instance, or have the ability to get bail? We say the opposite. We say no bail for 128 days. You don't have to have a prior conviction, because we're not going to give you the chance to go back out there and commit the murder with an automatic weapon. And that is our position. And a position that is defendable. It infringes on no person's right. You cannot not pass law for the fear that one innocent person or two innocent people may be affected. Then don't have speeding laws, right? You want to talk about laws for setup? A police officer could pull any one of us over and say you're above the speeding limit. And there is nothing that you could do to prevent that. But you now must go and face the court and all of the trauma affected with it. So we wouldn't pass a law to deal with speeding because you were framed for it. Madam Speaker, comparative wounding and shooting with firearms by divisions from the 1st of January to November 25th. In 2018, there were 501 woundings and shootings, whilst in 2019, unfortunately, it's gone up to 641. We are working tirelessly and with all efforts, all hands on deck, and all the law enforcement officers are asking is for the legislators to pass this piece of legislation, because they do not want to have to face a person who had no previous conviction, no previous charge, pointing those automatic firearms at them, because that is what is happening. That is how the gangs are operating. Every single one of these sophisticated gangs have access to these weapons. And we're fighting it, and we're meeting with some success. But still, Madam Speaker, they need the assistance. We need to be able to keep these persons off of the street. And these are criminals, because as I say, there can be no legitimate reason to have an automatic firearm in your possession. That is a simple premise. Weapons used in the commission of murders, another important statistic. So out of the 480 murders,
the original time is now expired. You're entitled to 15 more minutes to complete your presentation.
thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, out of the 480 murders committed for the year as of Monday, 381 were committed using firearms. Let that sink in. 381 murders out of the 480 were committed using firearms, 47 with sharp instruments. Therefore, firearms were used to commit 79.4% of the murders, followed by sharp instruments of 9.1%. Woundings with firearms and other weapons and shooting with firearms for the year, 599, compared to 656 last year. Possession of firearm and ammunition, last year at this time, 1,153. This year, 935. So that shows that the hard work is bearing some success, because both have gone down. Persons arrested. Persons arrested from the 1st of January to the 23rd of November 2019 for murder, 59. For wounding and shooting, 184. For possession of firearm and ammunition, 1,138 persons. So, Madam Speaker, to me that figure is startling. That for the year, the police have arrested and charged. So not just arrested, as my friend from St. Augustine would be able to point out the difference. Arrested and charged for the year for possession of firearms and ammunition, 1,138. So 1,138 persons arrested and charged for being in possession of an illegal firearm. That is very frightening as far as I'm concerned. These are some of the statistics, Madam Speaker, that go towards putting this bill in a contextual reality. Not the old talk, not the speaking of hypothetics, but the reality of what is being faced. Just quickly, Madam Speaker, to describe the bail process. So you're charged, you go before the court, you ask the magistrate to be granted bail, which means to allow you out, and you have your liberty until the trial and your sentencing, your conviction and sentencing. That is what we're describing. And all this bill is saying is for anybody in possession of artillery, an automatic firearm, a weapon of war, yes, a weapon of war, a hand grenade, a bomb, or a device, other missile, other like missile, you have no access to bail for 120 days. But the two safety provisions, the police must start the case against you within that 120 days. So it is putting them in a tight time frame. And if you think you can, or you want to, you can appeal to a judge in high court. All of your rights are protected. But let us remember whose rights it is we are protecting. People found in possession of automatic firearms, grenades, and the like type devices. We introduced in August, for the first time, the offense of trafficking in firearms. And yes, we say this should also be caught by this legislation. Because anyone found in possession of 8 AR-15s, 9 AR-15s, we say more than 2 weapons, you're trafficking. So it is not true to say that this legislation provides no bail, as was suggested. First fallacy. It is also not correct to say that, as he put it, the Plummer case, the member for Urupuch East put it, the Plummer case, it would not have changed anything. Completely untrue. Because if the police had the ability to have charged under this provision, it would have caught those specific circumstances. Yes, we've explained why we're changing our policy with respect to trafficking in firearms and automatic firearms. I say it is nonsensical to use an excuse or to avoid passing law on the basis of there can be fabrication of evidence and framing. No one wants that. Every single criminal offense, including murder, can fall prey to that. We don't legislate on the basis that someone can be framed by the passage of the act. And as I say, in this specific piece of legislation we're asking, you can still apply to a judge in the High Court for bail. So it is not that you have no access to bail. I also found it ironic, Madam Speaker, when there was conversation about how much money we have to pay on a yearly basis, an annual basis, for persons who've been charged and malicious prosecution, etc. Because the example that came speedily to the front of my mind was the state of emergency, and that the taxpayers continue to pay tens of millions of dollars for a state of emergency that was unjustified. Madam Speaker, a short while ago, at the beginning of my contribution, I drew reference to what I found a disturbing trend, that in certain divisions, the Western Division, the Port of Spain Division, the Northeastern Division, and the Northern Division, we saw spikes in crime. As the Minister of National Security, one of the burdens that you carry is that you receive reports. And I always laugh when any reference is drawn to these reports. Take it to the police. These reports, on some occasions, come from the police. And the police are letting the Minister of National Security, and on many occasions, the chairman of the National Security Council, know what is taking place in Trinidad, because you need to know so you're able to govern better. I have in my possession, I've only brought 3 of them here today, but they are the most disturbing types reports that any Minister of National Security could read. The first one involves an incident at the Hyatt Regency Hotel this month by a member of this House. There was an incident at the Hyatt Regency during a sitting of Parliament where persons who are known to be involved in criminal activity began to have a stir and an outbreak at the Hyatt. And the Hyatt security called the police, and they called a certain member. And the reason they called that member, Madam Speaker, is because the criminals said they were here to meet the member. And when the member turned up there, he ended up paying the bill for the drinks. That's right. And then said, you were supposed to meet me. Stories right here in a special branch report provided. Thank you very much. I expect that from Naparino. I don't make up anything, Madam Speaker, and the proof is in the pudding. Very disturbing, because what it went on to say is that the member admitted that he was supposed to meet them. And then the further evidence that the police gathered is on many prior occasions, this was used as a meeting point.
Madam Speaker, I rise on 48.6. The member is imputing improper motives. He said the person is in the house. It could be all 16 or 18 of us. So on that basis, I start on 48.1, relevance of the speech, and 48.6. Against any one of us here. We are in opposition. We are members of the House. So he might be referring to any, and we are not in that whatsoever. We are not in that whatsoever. It's a carte blasting, and that is not acceptable. I ask for it to be retracted.
Firstly, any member is entitled to stand under standing order and raise an objection. And I'd hope we'll all tolerate that. Secondly, I overrule the objection. It cannot apply to all. I can't remember how many numbers he said, because the member referred to a member. Please.
I want to say that
Wait, what standing order you on?
Member, I am. Member for. Now, I know in recent times we've been in many places. Many of you all here have been in all kinds of places where different rules apply. All right? But please don't sit there and challenge me. I'm not having a conversation with you, member. All right? I am cautioning all members to remember where we are and the rules which apply here. Member for Caroni East, you raised a standing order. I overruled. You have reminded this House repeatedly of your seniority. And again, and this is the last time, member for Caroni East, I'm going to caution you. Okay? And I'm cautioning all members. We are out in other places where other rules apply. Please remember where you all are.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I saw it fit to draw some of this to the population's attention because I sat and I wondered, why would anyone who is a right-thinking citizen or civic-minded citizen object to a person who's found in possession of an automatic firearm or grenade? Why would anyone object to those persons being kept in prison for 120 days? And it dawned on me that we all have constituencies. We may all have constituents. Sometimes constituents don't know electoral boundaries or have the parameters of Parliament, but you have other types of constituents that you need to please. Some of the other reports talk about disturbing conversations between a sitting member, not here, and persons behind prison walls about strategy for local government. This report in particular talks about meetings with a notorious gang leader and the promise of contracts estimated at $14 million after the upcoming elections. There are also, not on the PNM side, there are also other matters that have come to attention on activities taking place on the East-West corridor. My fear is that a possible reason to resist this type of legislation that is so narrow and so focused on preventing criminals from being in possession of automatic firearms may be determined by constituents, and I don't use it in the electoral sense, who there's a need to associate with and to please outside of the legitimate citizens and lawful citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And I leave it right there. Madam Speaker, I end and I conclude by saying to the 41 members of the House that this piece of legislation is requested by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to assist them in their fight against crime, and to say that they are not meeting success and utilizing the pieces of legislation being passed is also a fallacy and misinformation. And I plead with all members to support this because there can be no justifiable reason for amendment or to oppose it in its current form. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Member for Laventille West.
Madam Speaker. Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Speaker.